writers, friends. Hello, this is Carter, and welcome to this episode of Making It Up, my little podcast. My little podcast that is going on, I don't even know, 5, 6 years, something like that. Started out as a hobby, started out as a reason just to get to connect with other writers. And man, I stuck with it. Who saw that coming? We're around 250 episodes or so now, somewhere around there. And I'm talking to somebody once a week and getting into their brain, which is exactly what I love. I love talking to writers. Before I get to today's guest, speaking of writing and speaking of talking to writers, if you did not know, I do have a company called Unbound Writer where we do writing retreats and I do one-on-one coaching. And we also do seminars and events and stuff like that. But if you're interested in any of that stuff, especially the one-on-one coaching, I love working with writers on their manuscript or on their psychology or whatever you want to talk about. And you can do a free consultation call. You could just go to unboundwriter.com, sign up for a free call, and we'll just chat and see if there's a way that I can kind of help you through what you need help through with, if that makes sense. All right, let's get to today's guest. Today, I talked to Rachael Ramas. So, Rachael is a debut author, and her brand new mystery thriller, Objects in Lakes, is coming out just next week, as I'm actually recording this now, but it's officially out on June 2nd, 2026. And I love talking to debut authors. Some of you might know I do a lot of work with debut authors with international thriller writers and at the Thriller Fest annual conference. And I just remember as a debut myself, how generous people were with me. And so I love to give back. And I'm just, it's fun to see somebody at the beginning of this really cool journey, which has tremendous ups and downs, and not everybody sticks through it. But it's just great. So she's getting ready. Rachel's getting ready to go on her tour next week and all the fun things associated with that. You never know how a book's going to sell, but she's written a lot. I think she's got another one on a contract and three more that she's either written or in the process of writing. So she's very prolific and finding her voice and getting better. And she's even, you know, she's great at recognizing that in herself, through the imposter syndrome, which we talked about quite a bit, to say, I think this book's really good, and it's hard to tell, but like that confidence is so important. As long as it's kind of, in her case, it totally is, as long as it's wedded to, objectivity as much as you can kind of define that for oneself. So you could tell she's very passionate about writing in general, and this sounds like a trite thing to say, but that is the thing that keeps you going, through however long your career is going to be, through however much money you're going to make doing this. If you don't have the passion for it, you are going to quit. And that's probably true with most things. And that passion will ebb and flow over time, and you will question it and you will question yourself. Um, but if you take a few days off and you find yourself itching to write, to even just conceptualize a scene, then that probably means that the passion is still there. It was great. We did a nice little storytelling at the end. She was a fantastic person to talk to. This is a great one, folks. You're going to like this. This is my conversation with Rachael Ramas. So next week is the launch of your debut novel.
Yes. Have you ever had a debut author on here before?
I've had plenty. Yeah, I love debut authors. I noticed that you're with ITW and then MWA. Elena Hartwell and I co-chair that with Bob Dugoni, the debut author committee for Thriller Fest. So so next year you would be eligible if you go to Thriller Fest to
Yes.
be part of the
Yep.
debut author whole thing, which is about 30 people usually per class. Most of them go to Thriller Fest. They get their own breakfast where they get to stand in front of like 400 people and say 1 minute about who they are and their book. We do a big thing Friday night for them. It's really cool. So I love working with debuts. I've had debuts on the show before. I'm not sure I've ever had a debut on the week
Before
before.
it's not even out. Yeah. So this is an exclusive.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm not jaded
exactly.
yet. I'm not jaded yet. So, but it's been an interesting ride. My God.
You won't, hopefully, you won't ever become jaded. I think there are times where you keep wanting maybe a different experience, and I can only speak from my own experience. And then, book after book after book, it kind of feels the same, but then all of a sudden something big happens, or even something maybe not so great happens, and it's different. But I've never felt jaded. I'm sure you're feeling grateful. And
Yeah.
like, because the odds are crazy, right? Like, I don't know if you ever
I
investigated
did.
the
And
odds.
people don't understand it's a 1% chance. If you Google what is the chance of first of all getting a literary agent or just being traditionally published, it's 1%. But I was so naive. I was like, Dumb and Dumber, you're telling me I got a chance. All right.
Well,
Um,
that's right. Yeah, because what else are you going to do? Just not write? I mean, which is, if I guess it depends on what your goal is. I've met plenty of people who want to be authors, and I've met plenty of people who I think like the idea of being an author. And if you're the latter, I feel like you will be easily discouraged. Like, you get those first 50 rejections, and you're just like, I'm out.
it's so subjective because you'll have, I love the tone, but I didn't like this. And then another email, like I didn't like the tone, but I did. And
Right.
it's just so confusing,
It is, that's just right. It has to hit the right person at the right time, and you have to be willing to listen to what people are saying and to pivot and to improve. My first several books that didn't sell were my education, right? So that's where I learned how to write. And every book after that has become something to build on, and the market changes, and
Yep.
yeah, it's really hard.
Have you always done thrillers? Was that your first book? Was it like, let's just go straight to that
Yeah,
genre?
I mean, I wrote a book and I didn't know what it was because I didn't know anything about books. It was a weird kind of experience. And I did get an agent with that book after many, many, many rejections. And she was the one who told me I had written a thriller, and I didn't really know what that meant. um, I knew it was suspense, but yeah. And going back to your 1%, when you're talking about genre fiction, man, it's probably even lower than that to be traditionally published. It's really hard to break into mystery, thriller, suspense
Yeah,
because there's just so much content out there.
I agree. You got to be delusional. I'm very delusional.
Yeah, I mean, I think you do it because of the love of it. And so was this the first thing you've ever written in terms of a novel?
For a novel, yeah. Articles, screenplays. I wrote for the state news at Michigan State, which I know that's when I first DM'd you. I saw your daughter went to Michigan
Yep,
State.
yep. She's an ex-Spartan or Spartan
Yes,
for
she went
life,
to
however.
Ohio State. What?
I
But I mean, it's
know.
a great law
I
school.
Well,
So,
when they offer you a full ride at law school, you kind of go wherever you go.
wow. So she's smart. My gosh.
She's all right, you know. I say that because she actually produces these, so she'll listen to this interview, and if I can shit talk her, I get extra points.
I love that. I have my daughter do all my reels and all that because she knows how to edit. So I
Right.
love how we both employ our daughters.
But that's
But
it's pretty impressive that yes, you have screenplay writing background, you have storytelling background, which is hugely essential. But to have your first novel sell is, the percentages of that are low.
yeah, so I wrote it in end of 2022 is my New Year's resolution. Dealing with a lot, as I think most debut authors would say their first book is the most personal.
Huh.
Um,
Hmm.
so I was like, I just got to get this out like in a therapeutic way. I know you know a little bit about I have like some disabilities, chronic illness. So I was kind of just grieving, okay, this is what my life is.
Yeah.
I have two little kids at home. My mom was diagnosed with cancer, had other family members dealing with addiction. So it's funny when I look back at each character in my novel, you see how that all lines up. At
Yeah.
the time, you don't really realize it. You're just writing. And my daughter was like, "What's your New Year's resolution, Mom?" I'm like, "I'm going to write a book. I'm going to do it." So I kind of just did it for me and for her because
And
she's like,
just to intersect, where did that come from? Do you think that I want to write a book?
I've always written, like I said, since I was little
Yeah.
kid, always writing like little, but like to write a novel, I mean, you can get to 50,000 words, at least for me, so easily. But once you hit that mark, it's kind of hard, I think.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
so
yeah,
I just saw the whole thing as like a movie. I see most of my books like a movie first.
yeah,
So I kind of outline it like a screenplay, and then I just start writing it.
yeah.
And then the first draft is messy. Then I just get it. I think if you can get the first draft down, that's where people stop. Everybody has a story, but
Yeah.
to write it, they'll give up halfway through.
Yeah, well, it's interesting how you mentioned the first book being your most emotional. I think those of us, so I had zero background, when I was writing a story, and I think the issue with that first book being autobiographical to some degree is that the good side is yes, it's absolutely therapeutic. You're feeling it. It's cathartic. You're working through stuff. That doesn't mean it's an interesting commercial book, right?
Right.
And
Or that
and
they connect with people, or yeah.
totally. And this is something I see as a writing coach all the time. It's like it's so personal to people that one, they take feedback very personally, because you're kind of saying, this isn't interesting, even though it's your life. And secondly, they have a really hard time letting it go. Because most of us, that first novel is just practice, and you have to
Mhm.
learn to let it go. And if it's super personal to you, and you can't let it go, then you just hit this wall. So you're able to have kind of the catharsis and make something that's appealing to readers. Did
Yeah.
you find yourself? So you got an agent with that book, obviously.
No. So I have a
Oh,
really weird story for you, and I may be the first to tell you this. So first I wrote it for me, then I had my beta readers. You got to have your people that you can go to. And they were like, this is good. But they're your friends, right? So
right.
you're like,
You have to
is
be
it good?
careful who you select.
Yeah. So I went to my friends that like read tons, like I'm talking 4 books a month. So
Yeah,
I'm pretty good with constructive criticism. Grief is a very universal feeling. I
right.
think an addiction, that's a big part of this book. So I did start querying it. And right away, I got requests for the full, which people don't understand. That's hard to get,
Yeah.
even if you never hear from them again. Just people that they requested it, big agents too. And then I randomly submitted to Rising Action,
Mm,
which is they are distributed by Simon and Schuster.
okay.
So Alex over there, right away, she's like, "I love it. Send me the full." 2 weeks later, she's like, "I want to publish it." So I went right through a publisher and a distributor like Simon and Schuster, and Simon and Schuster is now going to do the audiobook through Simon Maverick that
Yeah,
comes out in July. So I'm excited
that's
about that.
great.
But then the my third book that I wrote, I'm like, this is really good. The more you write,
Right.
you just know, like this is gonna pop up. This is like commercial. So I queried that and then got an agent right away with that. So we're on
So
submission
your
right
agent's representing your third book, and your first two are
now
handled
through
through.
Rising Action, Simon Schuster. Yep.
Right. And then Rising Action's going to, I'm sure, have the the first look opportunity at that third book, would be my guess.
Well, they don't. They have the first two, yeah, and
Yeah.
then my agent now has the rest. I've written 3 others, so
Oh wow.
yeah.
You've
So
been,
I have a lot of free time, as you can tell. My kids are like self-sufficient now; they're in school, so I help with my husband's law firm, and then I write, and I love it.
yeah, so you're writing a lot of hours a day, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every morning, I listen to my music, I get my ideas, and I write.
Yes, yeah, I can't do that. I write very limited, an hour a day or something like that. But
Well, you're in Colorado, right? I'm
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So the weather, I think being outside in Florida helps a lot. I get a lot of ideas. There's a lot of crazy people here,
Yeah.
so
Oh yeah.
yeah, my brain can't shut off. I have to write it down.
Yeah.
So
Well, that's good. Yeah, and it's hard to balance all those ideas with, okay, I have this idea, and then you start to think, do I have a 90,000 word idea? What
mhm.
is, because I don't outline, so like when I do have that idea, it'll be small, it'll be like a one sentence idea, but it has to hit me in such a way that I kind of know, yeah, there could be a huge story in here, as opposed to, because when somebody says, "Oh, you should write a book about that," and it's like some small
Not
little
enough. Yeah.
interesting thing. but it's like that's not a story. I mean, it's got to be broader. It's got to grab you by the throat a little bit.
In
And
my notes app, I just keep going. I'm like, if I have enough ideas, then I'm like, okay, I can combine these two ideas, and then
yeah,
that's for a
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Do you ever get an idea for something while you're writing something else?
I always do. That's how usually when it happens. And I'm unlike you. I don't have gobs of ideas. Um, but something will hit me and then I never write anything down. And if like 6 months later I'm still thinking about it, then I'm like, all right, there's something here. So I just started something last week because I've just turned in everything I've had to turn in for the next couple of years. And so I'm able to start a book and I'm like, I just start writing. I'm like, I think there's something here that thought of maybe 6 months ago. So we'll see. And it's funny how you say like, yeah, and this book is really good. And I know you kind of, before we started recording, you mentioned imposter syndrome. That's the funny thing is you do need that confidence, right? Um, because you're always in battle with that self-doubt, which is inherent to all of us, I think. Um, but yet you can still be wrong. Like I've had books where I'm like, I love this book. This is maybe the best thing I've ever written. And either my editor wasn't crazy about it or wasn't like received that well or didn't sell that many copies or whatever. It's so, and then you're like get hit in the face again. You're like, oh,
Yep.
just when I thought I was getting good. And then you write something that you're like, yeah, this is pretty good. I like it. Okay. And then it takes off. And,
Yeah. It seems like that's what I see is it's like the third or fourth book for authors that's what pops off. And yeah, it's just random. You never know. It's the
yeah, everyone's got a different story, but you can see the common thread through all of them. I mean, so for me, my third published book hit the USA Today list, but overall, like, did okay, And so I've always been mid-list, kind of just chipping away. And then my 10th book, was a breakout, like a huge breakout. And now I'm trying to follow that up. And it's like, can I do it again? Like, what was the formula? Like, it's weird. Like, you
yeah.
don't know. And all you can really do is like pay attention and then put your head down and write the best that you can write and take good advice from this group of people that you've learned to trust over time who are hopefully not your family and friends, but your editor and your
Right.
agent and some very smart beta readers who live in that space.
And I
Um,
also think you can't really overthink because if you overthink it, then you're going to get too much in your head about it. So at a
right,
certain point,
right.
yeah,
If you deconstruct a breakout, whether it's yours or somebody else's, and try to recreate it, the whole market is shifting behind the scenes, and you don't know if that's going to be of interest to anyone anymore. It's this weird balance of like writing what you want to write, but still being aware of expectations, not only of the market, but of you, especially if you have several books out, people start to expect things from you.
Mhm.
And, I just talked to somebody earlier this week who's like, I've written 40 books and I want to do something totally different. And some readers absolutely hate it because it's darker than what they expect. But you're also tapping into a new audience and I'm fighting maybe my boredom, maybe I'm doing something different. So,
I do
um,
like to mix it up. I'll do my first book. I don't know why the hell I wrote it in third person because I'm like, it was way harder. Second book,
mhm,
I did first person. I'm like, this is so much easier. Why did
yeah.
I do my first book in first person or in third person? Um,
Yeah, that's a discussion we have a lot on this show. And I'm convinced that finding your voice is synonymous with finding the POV that works for you. Because a lot of people argue you choose the POV that fits the story. And I argue you choose what works for you, what you're good at. And I did the same thing. My first several books were third passed, and because I'm like, that's how books work, because I'm an idiot. And then I switched to first present. I'm like, why is this so
so much,
easy? Like,
yeah.
why am I so much more invested and connected? And because that's my voice, so that's what I do. Because that's what I know that I'm best at. But you have to do all that other stuff to get to that point of learning
Yeah.
that's what works
But
for
I
you.
think it's good to mix it up too, to have some books in third. I wrote the last book I wrote had four POVs, so that was a lot.
Yeah.
That's the one I really had to outline because it's a lot going on.
Yeah. And that's
Just
hard too to make all the voices sound different
yep,
in a way
yeah.
that's not gimmicky.
And that was one thing my editor was like, just these two girls sound a little bit too similar. So you got to
Yeah.
take feedback and add some more layers to it.
Yeah.
But this is a question I have for you because I know you write a lot from a female perspective.
Yeah.
How do you, and I know you have a son and a daughter, right?
Yeah.
Do you take like how your daughter speaks because she's young, like, younger?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, how do you do that? Because when I write from a male perspective, I have to get drunk. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that. And I have to
Say whatever you
channel
want to
like a
say.
darker mindset. I don't know, because it's
Yeah.
weird for me, right? From a guy's point of view.
Yeah. I don't know what it is. I remember because I first started doing that because I didn't like when people I knew thought my character sounded so much like me. I just didn't like that. And as you know, when you write from a totally different perspective, it kind of frees you up a little bit. And it can be hard. Again, going back to your advice, I tend not to overthink it. I tend not to put them in situations where, this is like, what would a woman do? What would a man do? I tend to have situations where this is what a human would do in this kind of fraught dilemma. Um, I minimize it a lot in terms of I'm not going into huge descriptions, things like that. But yeah, it's just a lot more freeing for me. And of course, first person who sees any book of mine is my partner, who's a woman, and then my agent's a woman, my editors. So I have no lack of very smart women who, with a keen eye, who can give me great
They,
feedback.
they can be like, no, a girl wouldn't do this. Like they can
Yeah,
say,
and there are situations where like you do have to be like, no, she would never get up from the bar and just leave her drink unattended, to use the bathroom. Things like that. You're like, yeah, okay, that's great feedback, and but I also love writing protagonists who make bad decisions. So
oh,
maybe they do that and
for
they're
sure.
fallible. So
Villains
I
are my favorite to write. That's like the most fun.
Right,
So
right. No, totally. So just in this process, again, going back to your book coming out next week, has there been anything that surprised you, either good or bad, anything way different than what you expected, or you're just like, I didn't expect anything, so this is all just fresh and new?
I would say yes to all of that. Yeah, I didn't expect much, but it's still a lot. It's a lot planning like a book tour. I'm doing a lot in Michigan just because the book takes place in Michigan.
Right,
I'm from Michigan. And so we're doing a lot up there. And then next week we're in Boca, Barnes and Noble. So kind of the tour was a lot. But I think once you have more than one book out, so I wrote this essentially 3 years ago, right?
right,
You're
right,
getting back into the mindset of where I was at that point of view, right? To remember kind of how to pitch this. And while doing inline edits for my one coming out in April, promoting this book, and then writing something new right now. So
right,
it's a lot.
right. Yeah, you always get them. I always get everything confused. I'm like, what are we talking about?
Yeah, which book?
And And that's not so much because I've written so many books. It's just because my brain is, I don't multitask with books very well. So it is when you get pulled out of something and you go into a different universe and people are asking you questions about it, and you're really having to remember because, I'm not going back and rereading my books or anything. So it's like I got to remember what happened. And it seems like it should be easy to do, but sometimes it's not. Sometimes I'm like, who was that character again? Like
I
you
had
just
on my
mentioned.
good on my Goodreads, which I don't know if you've ever read your Goodreads. It's hit and miss. But I had someone write, I love this quote of the advanced readers that got the copies. And I'm like, God, I don't remember writing that. Like,
Right.
what
Right.
page was that on? But that's
I
a great
know.
quote.
I
So
know that is weird. Yeah, I do look at Goodreads. I think Goodreads is important. Um, you know, I guess at this stage in my career, what I do so far, I have a book coming out in November. So I will read, about 6 months before you start getting the advanced reader reviews, I will read the first 20 just to get a pulse because I know these are people who've been approved by NetGalley, people who my publisher recognizes as early adopters and influencers. So I want to see what they have to say. And then I just look at the overall numbers to see how it's pacing. Once it's out, to see, that's an indication of sales. And then the overall rating, like, I feel like if you have several thousand reviews and you can end up with a 3.5 or higher, you're doing a good
That's
job.
killing it. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
especially on Goodreads. I mean, Amazon is always about a half a star higher on average. Just, I don't know, people are,
Well, I think the good readers, they take it seriously, right? They're
yeah, they're
tracking.
hardcore.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
tough though when they'll be like, they'll give you like a 3.75. I'm like, dude, just round it to a four. Just give me a
Right,
four. I mean,
right,
like,
right. I know. Or somebody who will just rave about it and still give it a 4. You're like,
yeah,
boy,
there's
you're
no, like
really,
nothing bad. Yeah. And you're like, what happened? But
yeah,
I do
but it,
love it. That's the book behind you, right? I love the cover for,
yeah, they did a great job with that cover. It's a very,
I think covers, I don't know between you. I think it matters. I think people judge people on first looks. They judge it on books too. So
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that was part of the reason for the success of my breakout. It just had such a compelling cover.
tell me what you did. I got it
Yeah,
right here.
oh,
It came out in October, right? So you got the orange. You got,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, and it takes place in October.
Yeah. I love
But yeah,
that.
no, I totally agree. And I just let the publishers, they will give me a whole presentation around the cover, and sometimes we push back if there's something that doesn't feel right, but generally speaking, it's like this is what they do. They are very smart at this kind of thing. I'm not. So same thing with
So
titles.
I had a weird thing with mine. So this I think it looks dark probably, but it's
Yeah,
really cool with
but
comes out with
the
the
title
fireworks.
really pops.
So my brother is in he like ran the whole Total Wine website and he's in like branding and design. And normally you would never get this chance, but he designed the cover. And I sent it to my editor just
That's
like,
great.
oh, let me know if you like it. Like normally you would never get to choose the cover of your book.
Right.
Maybe unless you hated it and you're like, you guys, I really don't like this. Maybe they would but they loved it and they took it. So it's kind of cool that my brother
That's
designed
great.
the cover. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, and I mean, I've even had covers with the same publisher. They go back and they change them like 3 books later to reflect whatever direction that they're moving in now to keep it all kind of
Right. Because you're a
branded.
Poison Press. So I don't know if they keep it all branded, if they, how that works, if they buy, do they,
It's kind of branded per person, like what people get to know or expect from you as an author. So
okay.
like Mr. Tinder's Girl was a very different cover. Now they changed it. So for newer versions or whatever. So it's, yeah, there's all this thought behind it that is not my job. It's not, what I'm good at. So I'm glad that there are people there who
Did
are.
you come up with the idea for Tell Me What You Did because you're doing a podcast? That was one of my questions I wanted to ask you.
No, it was a buddy of mine who told me to listen to a podcast about people who would leave apologies on this voicemail line.
Oh,
And it immediately, like, I immediately thought, like, what if people were leaving confessions? And that's all I knew was a podcast where people confessed to something.
I
That's,
love that.
and so I just sat down and started writing. But it helped having my own podcast to know like a
The
little
tech,
bit
the
of the ins and
technology.
outs of it. But it's not that it's very complicated. You just have to have a good mic and good lighting and an ability to kind of understand stuff on the net. But that's about it. Um, what has excited you most? Like, I mean, aside from selling the book, then you wait for it to come out. It's a week from coming out. You're going on a tour, which is always exciting, although nerve-wracking because you're like, what if nobody shows up? Which has totally
Yeah.
happened to me, more than once. But what has been like, this is really exciting.
Um, I think just that I like whether it's my first book's a success or not, I don't have any like in my head what's going to happen. But I think just that I did it because I was like, I'm
Totally,
going to do this and I did it. So,
totally.
and my daughter is very into writing. She's 11. So it's kind of cool that like she got to see mom do what she said
Right,
she was going to do. And
right. You're going to
yeah,
see it on a bookshelf in a real store.
in a real
And
store. Yeah.
that's,
Yeah.
and when you can point that out to your kids, you know, that's pretty cool. That was like my only goal. Like once I got an agent, my only goal is like I just want one book published in my life that I can show my kids.
Yeah. I'm not
Um,
like trying to live off the book sales or anything. Like luckily, knock on wood. So
yeah,
yeah, I'm excited. I am nervous because I'm not shy. I don't get the vibe that you're shy either.
no,
I feel like most writers tend to be more shy
yeah,
from who I met. But the thought though of sitting up in front of everybody and like doing like a Q&A with a moderator is what I've been nervous about.
yeah,
But I think I'm just gonna wing it. So
yeah.
yeah.
Well, I love that stuff because you don't have to prepare.
Yeah,
Like,
you just show
yeah,
up.
it's
So
it's different. Like what I tell people, I definitely discourage people from doing readings unless they're really, really, really specifically asked to,
yeah.
just because they tend not to land very well unless you're really good at it, which very few people are. I also teach public speaking, so I've seen a lot of this and I've worked with a
Should have
lot
done
of
a class
speakers.
with you before next week.
But it's just, it is weird when you're in this atmosphere in front of people and they're asking you questions about something that you just made up.
Yeah,
And now people are absorbing, and it becomes this weird out of body thing. And it's like, we're all talking about this thing that I just thought about, and then I
yeah.
wrote down. And it's a very weird kind of moment. And those moments continue to happen to me, but that's when you can also just sit back and reflect in the gratitude of like, I'm so grateful that people are interested in this. And, regardless of how the book sells, people are there and they're supporting you. And it's
Yeah.
very few people get that opportunity in life. So it's amazing.
Totally. I just think it's weird to go up there too. And like, it's like you're talking about yourself, which I don't, I'm a little bit, I would say I'm modest.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, and then you know how it is on Instagram, you got to promote yourself now.
Yeah.
So it's a little out of my comfort to be like, hey
Sure.
guys, this book's great. Like, come on, everybody. Like, but that's what you got to do. So, and I think the book's great, but again, it's got to land for everybody.
Yeah,
So
and I think that's a real sticking point. It's funny, I'm actually teaching a class on this Saturday about being visible and promoting yourself and how you have to do all these things, and the pushback you get from so much of the writing community, especially the aspiring authors out there, is that exactly what you just said. Like, I feel gross promoting myself, like nobody cares. And so that doesn't mean you have to go out there and say, "Hey, this is a great book." You talk, like, you have a lot of great talking points, right? You could talk about kind of, this is the angle of grief that became cathartic for me writing this story. That's not, I think it's important to be revealing about oneself, but that doesn't mean you're necessarily boasting. You're just saying, "This is how I did it. This is what came to me. Here were the struggles with it. Here's what was unexpected." And that's all the real stuff that people are interested in.
yeah.
If you're just constantly posting, buy my book, buy my book, buy my book, people tune out.
No,
But
I feel
that,
like I do some funny stuff too. I don't me and my friends will just go to Barnes and Noble and make funny reels too. So which
right,
I've got most of my followers from that, from just
totally.
doing funny reels on at Barnes.
Yeah, totally. And just be like humble about, like, I can't believe my book's here.
Yeah,
This is
yeah.
such a weird feeling. So, but yeah, it's going to be
Especially
memorable.
you don't have a degree in writing. Like that's another imposter thing.
Oh
Like
no.
my degree's
Yeah.
in advertising. I did sales for Pepsi and Ford before all
Yeah, I
this.
was real estate finance in the hotel industry.
Yeah. So that's kind of gets in your head like, well, I don't have a degree in this. Like, so again, you go back and forth where you read your work and you're like, this is great. And then you'll read it and you're like, I don't know if this is good. Like,
Yeah, I think I mean, like, again, the three books that I wrote that never sold, that was my education.
mhm.
And you just get to a point where you can become a very popular author, and you just know you're not going to please everybody. You found your niche, and that niche is enough to make you happy. And that within that niche, you're like, yeah, I'm pretty good. And if somebody from who's a big fan of literary fiction reads my book, they might think it's total shit. That's
Right.
totally cool.
Yeah.
I know my lane. I know what I like. I know what I'm good at. And that helps with imposter syndrome because I, it never quite goes away. You're able to treat it. Um, but yeah, I remember even after I hit bestseller lists, I wouldn't tell people I was a writer if I met them at a cocktail party because I always felt like I have a full-time job that's supporting me. My writing's not supporting me. Why would I dare tell people I'm a writer first?
For
What right do
sure.
I have? And now that I'm supporting myself as a writer or trying to, like, I can tell it fine. But that all boils down to the imposter syndrome that, like, you're looking, and sometimes that's from also outside influences. Like, if
For
I
sure.
know
They're like, oh, that's cute. You wrote a book. That's cute.
totally,
And you're
totally.
like,
And if that's coming from your family, I
yeah,
see this a
like,
lot where your husband or wife or spouse is maybe not directly, but subtly kind of treating it as a hobby.
mhm.
And you need to treat it as a career, even if you haven't sold anything yet, because it's that kind of mindset that gets you places. then you just have this conflict that's just existential in your marriage, you
Yeah,
know?
totally.
And I see this a lot, and it creates that imposter. Like, how dare I, especially if it's feeling like you're taking away time from the family to do this, but
The
it's,
mom guilt, you hit the nail on the head with the mom guilt. I'm like,
yeah,
what am I doing this for? Sorry guys, mommy's writing a murder chapter. Somebody's getting murdered right now. You know what I mean?
right,
Where
right.
I should be with my kids. But I think at the end of the day, writing's a passion for
Right.
me at least. And if that's going to make me a better mom, that I'm doing what I love, you just got to make time. And I've had that talk with my husband, like, hey, I can do law firm stuff at this time. I'll pick up the kids at this time, but I got to have this
Yeah.
time to write. So
And most
yeah,
people understand, but those who don't, you as the writer have to take control of that and be like, no, this is what I'm doing.
yeah.
And whether or not it pays off, this is my passion in life, to your point. So, and if your spouse doesn't understand, then maybe that's something you need to reevaluate as well.
No, he's been supportive. We just finished a legal thriller, and he helped write the trial scenes because I didn't really know if I was doing that part right.
Yeah,
So
that's great. That's great. Well, Rachel, we're going to wrap up. Before we do, we're going to do our own little storytelling just to get you prepped for your tour, get your
okay,
brain working.
yes.
Um, this is the making it up portion of the show. I've got 3 books here that I chose from random, off my bookshelf. You're going to choose one of these books, and we're going to choose a random sentence from a random page. I'm going to read that sentence out loud, and that'll be the first sentence in maybe a 2-minute long short story where we just alternate sentences back and forth. So we can do whatever we want with this. I've got Tess Gerritsen's The Summer Guests, Jen Sierra's I Know She Was There, and Matthew Sullivan's Midnight in Soap Lake. So choose one of those.
Ooh,
They are all
I
thrillers.
I think because we have objects and lakes, we got to go midnight at Soap Lake. I'm gonna get
It's a
my
great
glasses
book. It's a
so
great
I can
book. It's very strange.
get in
Matt's
my
a
mindset and everything.
great writer. Um, Give me a page number between 1 and 414.
87.
Okay, I'm going to quickly scan 87 to see if there's something that might work. All right, you do whatever you want with this.
God, okay.
And I'm happy to go first too. Just let me know, but I'm just going to read the sentence. She threw the trash at his feet.
And as she did, she looked down and noticed he wasn't wearing the normal slippers that
He didn't
are.
even move, although she could see he was more nervous than she expected. She knew he wasn't used to these kind of outbursts from her. But when she looked down at what she had thrown, what surprised her most was the syringe that she hadn't noticed before.
She leaned down to inspect it. She noticed there was still a little blood at the tip.
As she looked back up, her gaze scanned his body, starting with the toes all the way up to his neck, but lingering the most at his forearms, looking for any telltale sign that he'd been using again. She saw nothing, but she knew he could be very tricky about this.
She looked over to inspect the trash and found 2 more needles.
That's when her attention got brought back to the fact that he wasn't, not only was he not wearing his slippers, he was barefoot. And she remembered the one time he told her about when he was a 15-year-old living on the streets, he would shoot up into the veins in his feet. She looked back down and her heart sunk when she saw the tops of his feet.
She slowly got back up and took a deep breath, inching her way closer to the truth. She looked in his eyes and she saw that they were dark like a shark, and she knew.
I think we call it there. And what I love about that is if you look back at this story, not a single piece of dialogue. They
Oh,
never
shoot,
spoke.
yeah. I just had that up as a joke when I wrote 10 pages and forgot to write any dialogue.
Yeah. which is weird as a screenwriter.
Yeah, right. I know it's either one or the other. I noticed that it's either all talking or like just action.
Well, Rachel, what a pleasure to connect. I'm glad we finally, I know we postponed this a couple of times. I'm glad we finally got a chance to talk. And I hope I see you at next year's Thriller Fest for all the debut
Yes,
activities. And man, best of luck. You know, you've got a fun next few weeks ahead of you, and just soak it all in.
I'm excited. Thank you so much for having me too.
Of course, we'll chat soon.
All right, thanks, Carter.
Bye. All right, that is it. That is my conversation with Rachael Ramas. Be sure to check out her new book, Objects and Links. It's her debut novel. It just came out, so make sure you check that out. And you can read everything about the book and about her at rachaelramas.com. And if you're interested in checking out my new book, which comes out in November, it's called When They Find Me. I love this book. I'm so excited for it. Please go to carterwilson.com and you can read all about it and pre-order it. Please pre-order it if you're interested. That makes such a difference. However you do it, whether it's an ebook or audio or a physical copy, just pre-order. And if you're looking for any kind of writing advice, make sure to check out unboundwriter.com and you can see all my offerings there as well. All right, we are wrapped up. That is it. That is it for this episode of Making It Up. Appreciate you as always watching and or listening. Another episode out just next week. In the meantime, friends and writers, always take care.